Good evening, Adil. It's great to have you again for a chat. This time on what is the best way to start your personal finance journey, especially if you are a young person. So, Adil, um, we'd like to understand your own personal finance journey and what were your learnings and what is it that if you had an opportunity you would like to do differently. So can we start by you telling us about your personal finance journey and looking back, what is it that you would have done differently?
Right. So, firstly, Nanda, great to be on this live chat on new beginnings. It's the start of 2024, and it's a good time, to be thinking about how to plan for a new year. That being said, I should start with a disclaimer that, as always, it's very easy to give advice on personal finance. I can't claim, right, to be have been able to follow all of this. So I start with a disclaimer that I'm very good at giving advice, but I hope that we're all able to improve and become better this year. So maybe I can just start with a couple of interesting examples, right? So I've been buying life insurance, for example, over the last 10 years. So I bought my first policy when I got married because I said that, hey, I have a responsibility and I'm taking a home loan and so on and so forth. I bought another policy when my daughter was born, and the policy amounts were the same, but I paid double for the second policy just because I bought it when I was older, right? Now, when I think back on it, right, the beauty of a life insurance policy in India, and this is important to call out because sometimes it's not very clear, you lock in your premium for the exact rupee amount for the rest of your life. That means once you lock in a premium, right, under no circumstances will that term life policy, will that premium change. You can't say that for health insurance, but for term life, it's true. Now, if I look back, right, when I first got my first job at Cisco, when I started working in Bangalore, if I had bought a life insurance policy then, I'm sure, right, that I'd be paying 20% of what I pay today as my life insurance premium to cover for my loss of income if I die to my family, my loans, my home loan, to take care of my daughter. I think one thing I wish I had done better is started the life insurance journey faster. The second thing, right? I'd say that credit to various regulators in India. I think SEBI has done a great job. RBI has done a great job. There are great products today which you don't have to apply your mind, but you should buy in an SIP, index mutual fund, right? Whether it's a Sensex or a Nifty, if you buy an index fund and stay in, the longer you stay, the more you're going to make, right? So I put all my daughter's savings in an index mutual fund. Here's an interesting data point. If you put away 1 lakh on an index mutual fund, index typically over the last 20 years has made more than 12% return, right? So let's say you're making 12% return. In 15 years, right, that 1 lakh becomes 5 lakh. But the same 1 lakh, right, with the same 12% in 20 years becomes 10 lakh. So the difference between having 5 lakh from one or having 10 lakh from one is just that 5 years of compounding. So I wish I had started my savings earlier. So again, it's easy with 2020 hindsight, but these are two things I wish I had learned sooner.
Yeah, I can especially relate to the mutual fund bit because had there been more index funds or had there been index funds earlier on, I think a lot of us would have been more comfortable with mutual funds because it made sense. You are essentially investing in the index. So, which kind of gives people more confidence compared to, say, investing in any LSs or, looking for funds to invest in. So, yeah, index funds
Yeah.
definitely, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. See, the regulator's done such a fabulous job, Nanda. Like, for example, I'll give you two examples. So, I was talking to a friend who was from Australia, and they were saying how much. I said, how should I save? I said index, right? Index mutual. What is the minimum amount? I said there's no minimum amount, right? You can invest 20 rupees. There's no minimum amount. You can invest whatever you want. Then they said, what is the minimum lock-in? I said no minimum lock-in. You know, you can buy and you can sell whenever you want. And then they said, oh, okay, what is the market? How is it doing? I said last 20 years it's doing 12%. They said it's unbelievable, right? So I think the good thing is we have these really cool, nifty products in India. I know that SIPs are doing so well, right? So I think credit to the Indian consumer for accepting and understanding it. Credit to the mutual fund companies and regulators for building it and having the right policy. But it's a fantastic product. And the thing, Nanda, is you don't need to apply your mind, right? I still remember
Yes.
during my parents' time, my dad used to have to research. They ended up buying, some kind of term deposit in some kind of finance company. The company didn't do well. It was like so complicated, right? To get additional return, you had to do so much research. But
Yes.
index, Sensex, Nifty mutual fund is so good. It works. It's very tightly managed. The regulation around it is strong. The expense ratio is low. So I think it's a brilliant way, right, to build either a corpus for a child's education or to build wealth, right? It's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Just go into an SIP, just go into an index mutual fund. You cannot go wrong over the next 15, 20 years.
Got it. Got it. Adil, my next question is, see, a lot must have changed in the last 2 decades, typically from the time when you started working and today, in terms of aspirations. But what remains unchanged? Like when I started working, the biggest aspiration was to spend a good part of my salary dragging the family off on a holiday. And now I see my niece who's just started working last year do the same thing. So, but from your perspective, what has changed? What do you think youngsters today aspire to spend on? Do they spend on the same things, or are they doing things differently? What do aspirations look like?
Right. You're making me feel very old with that question, Nanda. Let me make best attempts here. So clearly, a lot has changed, and a lot remains the same, right? Maybe let's start with what has changed, and then depending on how much time we have, we can look at the other side. So I think what's changed, right, is that today we have all of the tools at our fingertips, which our parents didn't easily have. Let's start with one easy example. It's your credit score, being aware, tracking, improving it, right? So I think even 10 years ago, right, or when I first started working, um, we didn't know or care or track our credit score to a certain level that back in 2008 there's so many people, right, who defaulted on their unsecured debt and ruined their credit score for the next 10, 15 years. So today, right, everyone wants to check their credit score. Every bank has an ad saying that if your credit score is over 750, you can get a 0.2% discount on your home loan. And I think the awareness, right, has greatly increased. Today, right, we spoke about index mutual funds being a great product, a product which India can really be proud of. Similarly, right, there have been innovations in other products, and you spoke about, your niece, right, and how she loves to travel. So today, right, very interestingly, credit cards in India offer a product which is called no cost EMI. And by the way, right, on Bank Bazaar's co-brand credit cards, these no-cost EMIs are available both on electronics. So I was looking at, for someone I know, all the refrigerators which are on no-cost EMI, and there are 50 refrigerators currently available, wherein you pay the same price that you would pay on UPI on the credit card-based no-cost EMI, but you get 6 months to pay it back, right? And if you don't have that liquid funds available, but you really need that refrigerator and you believe that it's a reasonable expense, you end up paying in 6 installments over 6 months what you'd pay one time over EMI. These products are also available on travel. Now, obviously, you should be prudent about it, right? So let's maybe touch upon things that have not changed. So things that have not changed are things that I guess Indian and Greek philosophers knew 2,000 years ago, which is spend less than you earn, right? And that you will both be happy and wealthy if you're able to follow that simple, right, but very very difficult rule to follow. So yes, a lot has changed, and a lot still says the same. But I think it's a very interesting time because in the work you and I do, every single tool is at your fingertips, right? Today, with AI tools, any question can be researched and answered in a minute, right? And your credit score, the best credit cards, the best home loan, everything is available digitally to you, uh, just provided you have the ability to focus, right? And spend a little time understanding and planning for the new beginnings of this financial year.
Yeah. Excuse me. So, Adil, you mentioned about planning well. So, over the years, cost of living has gone up. So, how do you suggest that somebody who's just starting off on their career, typically an early jobber, how do you recommend? What are your tips to them for managing their budget and beginning to save early?
Right. Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, I fully understand, the difficulties with the cost of living going up, and it's a tough situation. I definitely understand that people are managing through, various life stages. Again, right, I just want to caveat what I'm saying, that, these are things that, I know because, we've researched it, we think about it. I've written a book about it with Hemant. But it's obviously difficult to follow, right? But just a couple of pointers. I'd say that think seriously about your insurance. We spoke about life insurance and the benefits of starting early. The same point on general insurance is, if you get a serious illness, right? No one will sell you, and you won't be eligible for general insurance easily after that, right? The earlier you buy, the better the rates. And here's the interesting thing about health insurance: you're not locking in your rate. So remember, I said that when you buy a life insurance, you lock in your rate for as long as you live. In general insurance and health insurance, you don't lock in your rate. So the insurance company can reset it periodically, right? So you might find out that in 5 years, your premium has doubled. But the interesting thing is, it has to happen for the cohort of every one of those consumers. You can't be singled out. And the good thing, right, is the regulators set up good systems that you cannot be denied the insurance if you have a heart condition, if you have a serious condition, right? Diabetes, cancer, hypertension. So today, with all these lifestyle diseases, I'd say think carefully about getting your insurance in order. Number one, right? Number two, right? I'd say that try and start a small amount in a SIP, in an index fund, right? However small it might be, right? So I know really smart friends of mine who, put away 30-40% of their disposable income. But I'm saying that even if we're not as smart as them, right, and we're not building that much wealth, start by putting away maybe 5 or 10% of your disposable income in an SIP, and just get into that discipline, saying that on the 5th of the month, the money goes out in a SIP, and it is what it is, right? And I'm not going to spend that. And if you're able to, over time, slowly, right, percentage by percentage point, increase how much you're putting away, I think that would be fabulous for a first jobber. So I think these would be the two main things. The last thing I would say is, manage your debt. Make sure you pay all your EMIs and your credit card bills in full on time. And the sooner you start think about investing in your home, the better. I think we at Bank Bazaar feel it's always a good time, right, to start building that asset. Maybe it's not the fastest appreciating asset you have because we published, reports comparing how index mutual funds have done versus homes, and over a 10-year period, the index mutual fund always wins. But there's a certain emotional charm, right,
Yes,
to having
yes.
your own home and building in it and investing in it. So I think the sooner you can start on that, the better. And I know all of this uh, is difficult, but since we're laying out a framework to start thinking about what's important, and also, right, we're trying to give you simple tools, right? So we're telling you index mutual fund, we're telling you term life insurance, we're telling you family floater, right? So we'll also try and simplify. So I hope this information is useful.
Yes. Adil, because you mentioned that is, it's from Vaibhav Sharma, and he says, I have a doubt regarding the better way of investing in SIP. Is it better to go for a monthly SIP or opt for lump sum investment, similar to buying dips as people generally tend to do in stocks?
Right. So I think here's what I understood from Vaibhav's question. So what he's saying is, hey, listen, I have 100 rupees, right? Should I wait for a dip, or should I buy periodically, right? Or something along those lines. I'd say that always buy periodically. So whatever money you have, put it to play at once, right? So I'd say that if I had 100 rupees, I would go in with the 100 rupees because index mutual fund over a long term will give me better returns than other asset classes. But I think for the question between, do I go in monthly with an SIP or do I wait to time the market? My belief, right, it's hard to time the market. There are too many externalities involved. I would just go in as and when I have the money using an SIP.
Got it. No, that personally also to me also it makes a lot of sense because most people do not have the time to keep looking at the market, right? You don't want to be spending a good part of your day trying to figure out how well the market is performed, and is it today that you should be doing, or is it day after tomorrow? So you might as well go with a SIP that helps you average out your costs over the long run. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you, right? And a couple of other interesting points we made in the Bank Bazaar book, right? The Bee, the Beetle, and the Money Bug is that in 65% of cases, and this is what all the research reports show, index fund does better than a managed fund. And it's really hard to time the market, right? So no one really knows, and if the market is the efficient frontier, right? You're just better off going in and holding for a longer period in time.
Yeah. So other than the the equity on the debt side of things, um, do you think it's a good idea that if people have a small amount lump sum, they kind of put it across in an FD, or would you still recommend that they still invest in equities? How
Great
would you
question.
help people take that decision? When do you stick to debt and when do you move to equity?
Yeah. So, we just spoke about, however, that whenever you're saving for the long term, and by long term, I say 5, 10, and over years, right? So, typical things are like for retirement, wealth building, daughter's education. It's always index SIP, all right? So, let's finish that. Now, let's come to two cases wherein I would use and I would advise debt, all right? So, case number one is, hey, listen, I have this amount of money and I need access to the money in 6 months. Okay. So I have a lakh, I have an expense coming up in 6 months, and I need to now work with this lakh and make sure that I can meet the expense in 6 months. Now, 6 months can be 1 year, 6 months can be 1.5 years, right? But in that case, right, I would go into a debt mutual fund. And the reason I would do a debt mutual fund over an FD, because they're close competitors, is the debt mutual fund gives me the liquidity. I can go in and out in 3, 4, 5 days, right? And I can do it whenever I want, typically without paying a penalty, because I'll invest in a debt mutual fund which doesn't have a penalty after 5 days or 6 days. And the second thing is, if I'm holding, no, actually the tax rules have changed. So let's forget the tax benefit. Let's just focus on the liquidity. So I would go with a debt mutual fund, and depending on how much risk I want to take, right? So the liquid debt mutual fund is the lowest return, lowest risk. Ultra short term, slightly higher risk, slightly higher return. Short term, and then you go up the pyramid, right? So if I personally was looking to use money in 6 months, it would go in a short-term debt fund. I'd be expecting to earn that 7.5, 8%, and I'd expect that I can take the money out when the requirement arises, right? So that's scenario number one. Scenario number two, right, is I get approached by a senior family member who is in their 60s and 70s, and they say that, hey, listen, Adil, I have built a lifetime corpus. uh, I don't want to take any risk. They start with that, right? I don't want to take any risk, right? I just want to make sure that I have a safe asset. So I'll tell them that, hey, listen, if it's there for 5 years in an index mutual fund, it will do well. It'll earn 12%. You'll get the benefit of long-term capital gains after a year. You should consider it. And they'll say, Adil, can my money go down? And I'll say, yes. uh, the market fell 2% yesterday. Like we said in the Be the Beetle, the Money Bug book, in any 3 month period, we have seen the rolling index go negative 10% of the time. You have to be ready that you might lose money. They're like, no, I just want safety. Now, very interestingly, in India, right, fixed deposits have a higher 0.5% payout for senior citizens, right? So that means that today's senior citizens, even in scheduled commercial banks, right, can get with that senior citizen bumper 8% FD rate. That's a quite good rate, especially if you're in a favorable tax bracket with that senior citizen bump up. It's good. Now, if you go to a small finance bank, you'll get potentially higher. But let's say for a minute, we're sticking to a scheduled commercial bank. So I do recommend for senior citizens because there is this super good 0.5% increased FD payout, which is unique and good in India. And when you're starting to approach the height of an interest rate cycle where a senior citizen can make 8%, I think I would recommend that in their particular scenario, they think about this fixed deposit.
I've just wrapped up this conversation with my mom, so I can totally relate to that one.
Okay.
So, Adil, how about emergency funds? Because, and this is something that, it's not only for the people who are just starting off. This is something that I've realized even with, people who've been working for a while. A lot of people just don't have anything like an emergency fund. What are your 2 cents on why you should have an emergency fund and what's the best way to go about building it?
Yeah, so we covered this in the first chapter on Save, right, of the Bee, the Beetle, and the Money Bug Bank Bazaar book. See, the typical use of an emergency fund is the following. So there's been a hospitalization. For some reason, there is a 2 lakh copay, right? Because of some exclusion. Where do I go for the 2 lakh for? That's a emergency, right? Or that I lost my job, right? It's going to take me 3 months or 6 months to find a new job. How am I going to pay for my EMIs and my family's expenses, right? So the need for an emergency fund in a worst case scenario is clear, right? Because your insurance is not going to cover either of the two scenarios that I described, right? Or, for example, I get diagnosed with cancer. So I'm not able to work, but my life insurance is not yet paying out. Now, it's a different point that there are term life policies with cancer riders and critical illness riders, but let's assume that the policy doesn't pay. So I'm not able to work, but I need to manage for 6 months, right? So my bills are being paid by my general insurance. So no problem with the bills. uh, I'm still alive, so the term has not paid out, but I'm not working. What do I do, right? So we typically say that have 6 months of your salary in a emergency fund, right? It's hard to build. It should be built out in a debt instrument. So typically, you would build it out in a debt mutual fund because you need to be able to access it when you need it, and you want to stay away from market fluctuations because it could be required anytime. So the only way to do it is just financial discipline, Nanda. So, maybe you can share your ability to do it, but if you can just put aside money every month and,
Yeah.
try and have 6 months set aside an emergency fund, kudos to you.
Yeah. I built mine using recurring deposits, and initially it was when I started off, I think it was an RD of 1500 per month. So that's how I started with it. Over time, what happened is, because I already had a small emergency fund. Over the years, each time when I knew that I had to bump it up, it was just a small increment that I had to make to whatever I was already doing. So that stepping up, so to say, that helped me a lot. So but yeah, I have had quite a few reverses that have made me extremely glad that I have those 6 months worth of salary put aside as an emergency fund. So yeah, absolutely. Adil,
Well
I think
done. Well done, Nanda.
we'll take the last question that we have, and that's from Sneha. So she says she landed a job 2 years back and she just started working. So, what would be the best investment to securely retire by 50?
Right. So congrats to Sneha for starting her first job. Wishing her, all the best. I think just to keep it simple, we've been discussing this on this show. We believe, right, that index mutual fund, either a Sensex or a Nifty. So keep in mind, right, the Nifty index is about 50 companies. The Sensex is about 36 companies, but a lot of fund houses design innovative larger portfolios. So recently I bought a Nifty 100. So it's not 50, but it's 100 companies. I believe that today there are mutual fund houses which even sell Nifty Sensex with 1,000, which is even more broad based. There's also the equal weighted. So right, the typical index weights it by market cap, but equal weight says top 100 equal weight, right? So I think any of these are good. All of them are good options. And I would say if you can do an SIP and maintain that discipline of not pulling out, right? That is the surest, easiest, and smartest way to build wealth for retirement
Got it. And finally, Adil, what was your financial resolution? What is it for this year?
for this year. Um, So, see, I have resolutions around emotional regulation, resolutions around fitness. But in terms of financial regulation, I think it would be uh, uh, just the usual discipline things, Nanda. So, just keep track of all my insurance payments,
Yes.
pay them on time. Keep track of all my credit card bills, pay them in full, pay them on time. Uh, um, whatever I can do to save and invest, do the best I can on that front. So I think these would be my financial regulations.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Adil, for taking time out and sharing all these views with everybody. There are more questions that have come from people listening to us right now, but we don't have time to take those questions. We'll try to get back to all of them offline. And but thank you so much for sharing all this with us. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah. We can request people to leave their questions on the Bank Bazaar LinkedIn page, and we'll see how we can get them material right from the book and elsewhere, which can help them out. So, Nanda, thanks for organizing this so well. I want to wish all the users, all the viewers, a good 2024, and really excited that you took the time out to listen in on Bank Bazaar's New Beginnings series. Through the entire week, we're going to bring you material and content, right, that can help you think about how you want to plan for the new year. So, wishing everyone a good 2024.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nanda.